All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I am your host, Brian Call. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about getting in shape for hunting season and just being in shape for life. I'm 45 years old. I feel fit, stronger than I felt and fitter than I felt for, I think in my early 20s. And there are things that I do routinely that help contribute to that. I get a lot of people asking me questions about, how to be fit as you get older. What are you doing? How do you do it? And so I'm just going to drop some quick things today on what I do to be in shape, what I think can help someone get themselves in shape if you're struggling. And hopefully you find this useful, because I really feel like a lot of your happiness in day-to-day life is tied back to your physical health. Hormonally, emotionally, physically, how you feel impacts how you feel. You can't really divorce yourself. You can't just be this overweight, crappy feeling dude and then be like, but I'm still happy all the time. It doesn't work. Before we get started, I want to remind you to use the code GRITTY at Mountain Ops to save, get free shipping on all your Mountain Ops products. And also, been doing a lot of hiking, and we're going to talk about that on today's podcast. And when I go hiking, I'm using sissy sticks, our gritty trekking poles. Get those at sissysticks.com, and you can use the code GRITTY, and you're going to save a lot. I think they're going to cost you about $110. They're carbon fiber upper, aluminum lower, and these poles are awesome, and they will withstand the test of time. We've put them through the paces. They got clip locks. I like them. Anyway, moving on. Also use the code GRITTY at Seek Outside. Save 5% on shelters and on all the lightweight stoves, titanium stoves for your later season hunts, even September. I like using them in September. And use the code GRITTY for your backcountry meals with Heather's Choice. You save 15% off there. And for you archers out there, use the code GRITTY for Valkyrie broadheads. Get yourself some Jagger or Blood Eagle broadheads. All right, let's dive into this. All right. So a lot of folks come up to me and they want to know, at 45, how am I fit? What do I do? What makes, how can they get in shape? They look at some of the miles I cover on foot on some of the hunts we've done, how far back in we go, through through the conditions that we go in, and then what loads we're carrying for miles and miles on our way out. And a lot of people, rightly so, are afraid if they did that, they'd wreck their back or hurt something, and they probably would. And so I want to go into that today on today's podcast, because there's kind of a philosophy that I have and what I've done throughout my life that I feel like has helped me, be in the type of physical conditioning that I want to be in, not just for day-to-day life, but then to do what I want to do when I'm in the mountains. And for those who have followed me for a long time, you know that I've been a fan of CrossFit for a lot of years, but I'm not saying that's the only way to get in shape, because you see it every day. There's people who use all sorts of programs, and in reality, I sort of take what I like from CrossFit and then I adapt it with other things as well. And people are always asking, well, what's your program? And I don't really have a program, but I'll kind of break down for you what I do in general, and then I think you'll find it useful. So first of all, let's start kind of way back. Let's say you're not in very good shape at all. Let's talk to you guys first, okay? Because what I found with people that have let themselves go for years and years and years and years and years, they're really broken. They're really broken. Like, just doing some basic exercises is tough, and there's so much soreness, inflammation, fatigue that comes with it, that a lot of people make some kind of New Year's resolution. They show up at the gym or they try to do some hikes, and then 2 weeks later, they're done. They've quit. They're back to eating pizza, drinking pop, and it's a shame. So for you people, I want to just say this is how I look at it, okay? I feel like when I'm talking to someone who's really wrecked and has been wrecked for a long time, the way I look at it is, I really feel like to succeed, to change your life, you've got to just take baby steps. Like that movie, What About Bob with Bill Murray, where he talks about, baby steps, baby steps. It's true. Take baby steps. And the way I think of it is set yourself up to succeed. Like, give yourself some fail-proof habits, some fail-proof goals, like ones you really can't fail on. And that's important because you want to build on, so much of our what we're able to accomplish in life has to do with our self-esteem in regards to who we are, like gaining momentum, gaining confidence. And that means if you sit there and go, from now on, I'm going to run an hour a day, you're probably not going to last a day. And so you got to back things up and set yourself up with some achievable goals that you can't fail on. There's goals like some people just have the goal at first, and I think it's a worthy one, just to go to the gym every day. That's it. Just get there. Just go get on an exercise bike every day for 5 minutes. That's it. 5 minutes. Not a lot, just 5 minutes. And I think what that does is, maybe it's, hey, I'm just going to go on a brisk walk every day for 15 minutes at lunchtime. And my idea on that is you do that and you start there, and you just, after you've done that for 2 or 3 weeks, because I'm a big believer in taking it slow, really slow. I just think that habits take time to form, and you want to build on these baby steps for long periods of time. And I think fitness builds best over a long period of time. So you do your exercises, it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes every day, or it's, 20 minutes, 3 days a week, whatever it is you can fit into the schedule, whatever it is, that goal that you can achieve, and you just do it. You just show up and you do it. After you do that for 2 or 3 weeks, you're like, okay, I feel like I can do a little bit more. You add a little bit more to that scale, and you do that for 2 or 3 more weeks. And then you add a little more to that scale, and you do that for a few weeks. And you set these goals for movement and exercise that are really, really small, because I found that people that are really broken, they get so sore and they get so tired from just minimal amounts of movement and exercise that they need a long time to build up a base so that they can do more advanced workouts. And too many people try to go too hard, too fast, and they either quit because it's so difficult. Like I said, they're so sore all the time and they're so tired all the time that the rest of their life is falling apart. They're at their desk at work and their head's bobbing, and they can't get their, they can't get the ledger right on all the accounting, and their brains mush and they feel like garbage, and they have no sex drive, and all these things play a role. It's like, slow down, man. Slow down. Build that foundation slowly and carefully. Do enough exercise that you get a stimulus from it, that you feel some soreness, some fatigue, but not so much that you're broken. And then do it again the next day and the next day, and take your time. Build your fitness over time. I always tell people that are coming to the gym with me, fitness isn't a destination. It's not a destination. It's just living. So for me, fitness isn't, okay, in 6 months, I want to be able to run this fast, and then I want to be able to bench this much. For me, fitness isn't like that. It's not a destination. It's not when I can do X, Y, Z, I'll be happy. Fitness is just doing every day. This is, today I feel like I could lift the world and throw it. I crush myself. The next day, I feel like, man, I'm so tired and I don't feel that good. And I do, a basic couplet workout that's about 10 or 12 minutes long, get my heart rate up, and it's sit-ups, push-ups, pull-ups. I had some kind of triplet, and then I call it a day. And I think really good athletes, a lot of really good athletes, they have an athlete IQ where they're really in tune to themselves, and they push themselves just right, not too hard, not too little. And they build on the foundations that they've created. I think, there's this misconception that if you really want to get in shape, that you've got to go and just crush yourself really hard to do something phenomenal so that then you can recover from that and be more phenomenal. And it's like, whoa, when a guy goes out and does these exercises or some kind of workout, let's say, and it's soul crushing, he has the foundation to do that workout because he did another soul crushing one a few days earlier, and one that was, a little less soul crushing than that a few days before that. And so don't compare yourself to other people. Don't go look at other people that are just killing it all day long and then go, okay, I need to get there. Compare yourself to you and do it slowly. So anyway, I'm beating a dead horse here, but the whole goal is go a little bit at a time with a good solid foundation and keep adding to it at a level and an amount that you can do. And as you do that, your fitness will grow. Your craving for more challenge, for a harder level of exercise will go up over time. So, and I'm going to touch on that a little bit later. But what comes with this initial amount of exercise, and this now applies to everyone, is inflammation is inevitable. Okay, you go out and you do a lot of exercise, soreness, inflammation, and fatigue. They're going to rock your world because you're putting your body through some changes here. You're pushing yourself. So how do you get around soreness? Because some guys, especially older athletes, they're gals, they've come to a point where they'll come to me and say, I can't even bend over, or my hip is so tight, I can only do these exercises, I can't do those exercises. And I hear that a lot with guys in their knees or their backs. Well, my philosophy is, if you do have a problem, like let's say it's your ankle, or let's say it's your knee, it's common. It's like, man, my knee, it just hurts. It just has this issue or that issue. So I don't do any exercises that aggravate it. When I hear that, I think, well, that's the exact opposite. At some point, you have to push through that pain. You have to aggravate it in order to get it stronger. So, but when you're dealing with soreness and fatigue and inflammation, there's a few things that I think need to happen so that you can set yourself up for success. Okay, first of all, diet. There are pro-inflammatory foods and anti-inflammatory foods that you can put into your diet. A diet, let me just walk you through like a diet that I kind of have on a daily basis, sort of the things that I would eat. It's a lot of vegetables. Like I'll eat a lot of broccoli. I eat a lot of kale. I have a lot of avocado. I do like me some bacon, even though I know that's probably not the best thing for me. I'll have a lot of game meat, deer, elk, bear, whatever. That's part of my diet. I have eggs. I like eggs a lot. And a lot of water. I do bone broth. I do not eat much sugar. I try to keep sugar completely out of my diet entirely. I mostly have, in the form of carbohydrates, I'll have sweet potatoes or regular potatoes. I'll have squash. I'll have rice, white rice. I really like white rice. And these foods kind of form the basis for my carbohydrate intake. My meats are game meats, fish, and then fats are avocado, olive oil, and the such. And I try to stay away from processed foods. So if it comes in a bag and it has a whole bunch of ingredients, I typically avoid it. I try to stick to whole foods. Anything that has to be cooked is kind of a winning combination. So I heard my friend Chris Spieler said one time, if you cook most of your meals, then you're pretty much ahead of 90% of the public. I don't do a lot of prepackaged foods. So a typical breakfast for me might be eggs, a little bit of bacon, some avocado, and I'll take kale and broccoli. I'll saute that in a pan with some butter. I'll put a little water in there and steam it, saute it, kind of kick it around. I'll throw, and it'll just kind of cook the broccoli. And I'll take pecans, a few pecans, like a little tiny handful. I'll throw those in a pan with some butter. I'll sprinkle a tiny, tiny bit of like honey in there with that. And then I'll kind of kick that around on a mild heat on the stove. And I'll make some glazed pecans. I'll sprinkle that on top of my kale and broccoli. And then I'll put a little balsam, different vinegar flavorings and olive oils. I'll spritz on top of that. And that'll kind of be at breakfast if I even eat breakfast. A lot of times I just fast. I don't eat until 12 or 1 o'clock. And as I've gotten older, as I talk about the fasting thing, if I take a feeding window from 12:30 or 1 o'clock to like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, I find that I feel better. I'm sharper in the morning, more energized. If I only eat during the hours of, like I said, 1 o'clock to 9 o'clock, and when I eat during those hours, and then I fast during the rest of the time, I just feel a lot better than I used to. So depends though, because I do like to eat right after I work out. So if I do exercise in the morning, first thing, then that throws off sort of that fasting schedule. But what I'll do is I'll go ahead and eat right after I work out, and then, and kind of eat regularly throughout the day. And then at night, I try to quit eating like around 7 o'clock, a little earlier than I normally would. But I prefer to fast, and I will work out fasted, and then I won't eat right after it depends. If I'm going to lift heavy and I do a lot of volume workouts, or I do a really intense workout, I'll eat after I work out right away within the first 30 minutes to an hour of my workout. If I do a more cardio intensive workout and a workout that's, doesn't leave me just wrecked, it's just a nice sweat, then I'll just fast until 12 or 1 o'clock. So the fasting, there's lots of information on fasting and why that's beneficial. I just do it because I know it's pretty good for me, and I just feel better. I feel better. So, but I think the more important thing is to stop eating crappy food. Stop eating foods that make you sick or make you feel crappy. Just eat a lot of vegetables. Eat a bunch of fruit. I eat tons of berries, blackberries, blueberries, raspberries. I eat some cottage cheese. I'm not afraid of having cheese. I do well on dairy. Dairy doesn't bother me at all, but I stick to kind of cheese and cottage cheese and feta and various cheeses. I eat a lot of olives with my meals to give them some additional flavor. Pickles, pickled things. I don't know. I like a good steak and sweet potato and whole foods. So if you can stick to that type of diet, and I have a lot of people say, man, I don't have time for that. Like cooking every meal. I don't know. It doesn't bother me at all. I like cooking. But one thing that I think you could do, and that I've seen Ryan Lampers do on some road trips, is he seems to always have a batch of jerky sitting there that he's homemade. We both have like peanut butter balls and stuff that we've made. He has the goji berry, like, hemp cookies and stuff that he'll make, and eat those things. And they're, you kind of have these healthy options that are tasty that you've pre-made and either dehydrated or put off to the side, so that you can grab and go. It's a great way to succeed, because a lot of people will be on the road. They'll head out to travel somewhere, and the first thing they're going to do is swing into like a Wendy's and get some kind of fry and hamburger, which just sounds disgusting to me. But I've not had one in so many years that my palate has changed. Like I don't crave that stuff. So yes, if you can stick to whole foods, clean foods, lots of vegetables, meats, clean fats, it'll change how you feel. Fast more and eat, from 1 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the evening or something like that. It'll absolutely change. Soda and things like that, stay away from it entirely. It doesn't add any value. If you struggle with that, there's alternative sodas you can get, like a LaCroix or something, or I don't know, there's drink an Ignite, that can satisfy some thirst, give you an energy boost. But yeah, I stay off of garbage food. Okay, so that's kind of the diet. On the supplement side, this I think is a big deal. As for me, as I've gotten older, there's some supplements that I have to take, or I will feel immediate pains and weaknesses shortly after. And I wonder how many of you are like this. And how many of you struggle because no one ever talks about it and it's not something that really hits your radar. So for me, I have to take a calcium supplement, a calcium, vitamin D, magnesium type supplement. And I've toyed around with a ton of them. And this is true for my grandparents, my parents. I think it's probably some level of genetic component. You'd like to be able to get all your vitamins and minerals from the diverse foods that you eat. Unfortunately, we live in a country where a lot of these foods are grown in a hydroponics or something like that without, the right nutrients, the right minerals coming out of the soil. And so you lose a lot of vitamins and minerals, and it's good to supplement. So for me, I have found that calcium pills, the soft gel from Schiff, are the best for me. I absorb them well, and I'll have joint pain disappear in my hands and my knees, just gone. If I stop taking calcium, vitamin D, magnesium, if I stop taking the Schiff brand like calcium, I will start to have some joint pain. The other thing that I take is fish oil. And I have found just a pretty standard fish oil is better for me than some omega-3 specific oil. And I don't know why, but it just is. So I think some of that has to do with processing. But when you just take a straight up normal fish oil, it's got a bunch of different oils in it. It has omega-3 and omega-6 kind of all blended. I just know that it works. So I'll take 2 to 3 grams of fish oil, which is a lot, but it seems to work for me. It seems to be what I need to reduce inflammation, to feel loose, and to feel good. So between the calcium, the fish oil, and the third one, which is glucosamine, I get that at Costco, and it's the liquid glucosamine. I think it's by Wellis or something. I've been using that for 7 years. My grandpa started using it. He's 92 or 93. He started using it way back then, and he noticed immediate relief. So I started taking it, and sure enough, especially when I'm doing CrossFit heavy and I'm doing a lot of legs, a lot of heavy lifting, lunges, squats, these 3 things, the calcium by Schiff, the fish oil, and that glucosamine are game changers for me with just keeping my joints healing quickly. And it's funny, if I don't do intense exercise, I don't climb mountains, don't go for major hikes, I don't do all that stuff, I don't really feel the need. I don't really feel joint pain. It's not until I push myself to extreme limits that I feel the need to supplement. And so some people are like, I don't really have any problems. Well, because you don't exercise or you don't hit it that hard. I've tested it. I've exercised with and without. I've gone on a 2-week backpack hunt where I didn't bring any calcium, no fish oil with me. And by day 10 or so, I'm sore. I'm not recovering. My muscles are even tight because, I don't know all the details behind it, but calcium and magnesium such, they go into your muscles as well. They help heal and recover, not just bones and not just ligaments and so on. There's more to it than that. And all these things kind of work in concert. All I know is for me, this combination has been a major game changer for me. So I bring calcium and fish oil with me on my backpack trips. I got to, because when I don't, I can be wrecked when I get back from a two-week trip somewhere. And it just tells me that I'm depleting those things and I'm not getting it back in my system at a high enough level to compensate for the intense activity that I'm performing. So that's me. I know that others have have had tremendous results from CBD oil, and that's something that's hitting the market and new, and a lot of people feel better, reduce a huge level of a huge decrease in inflammation and soreness from taking CBD oil. Their joints feel better. So that's not a supplement I've really put time in. I've taken it here and there, and I've had some mixed results, but I know Lampers uses CBD oil and has had, and I know Casey Harbertson, others who have used CBD oil, and it's been game changer for them. So that's another supplement that I need to look into. But I do find that calcium, fish oil, and glucosamine, those things together, they kind of get things done for me. So the other thing that I like to take is biotics from Mountain Ops, and that's their intestinal flora bacteria. So you can take that. It's a probiotic that helps you digest your food. I take that with a meal. I also take Renew sometimes, especially on the trail. I take Renew, and that's another product by Mountain Ops that basically has herbs and things in it that help you have a healthy bowel movement. And I find that really helps me stay regular and have a good, strong gut health, along with all the natural foods I'm eating. I find that when I take Renew and I take biotics, this is going to sound gross, but my stool is more digested. Like, things are more digested, and things, I think I'm absorbing more, getting more nutrients out of what I'm taking in than when I don't take them. The other things that I take is DHEA, and I'm not sure what that does. I think it helps with hormone production, but I have a doc who swears by it, and I started taking it, and I feel better. I take thyroid, which is it is a prescription, but I take that in the morning on an empty stomach to kind of just barely touch up my thyroid production. As I understand it, that has helped. I take vitamin D, and I take quite a few units. I think, I can't remember what the units are, but my doctor is a big fan of that and taking quite a bit of vitamin D. You can overdose on vitamin D, but I've been taking a high dose for 2 years. And like he said, I'm nowhere near the overdose amount still, even after 2 years. So I think it's pretty hard to do that, but you do need to watch that. I take some antioxidants. I take vitamin C, lots of vitamin C. And then amongst all this, I drink a lot of water, and I like a lot of tea too, herbal and so on, because it kind of helps me with hydration, keeps the body and the muscles hydrated. I used to take a lot of creatine, but it's kind of upsets my stomach. It's hard for me to have a bowel movement because it dries up so much, and then I retain a ton of water. So I'm not a huge fan of taking a lot of creatine, but I will cycle on and off of that sometimes if I want to put on a little more muscle. And then I take Slumber. Sleep is this next thing I was going to talk about. I take Slumber, which is Mountain Ops. I'll take a half a dose. I never take a full dose, a full scoop. I think some people are even better on a quarter scoop. It has different effects for different people, but I have found about once or twice a week I'll take Slumber. And what that does is, let's say I'm wired because I hit it hard, I had a really, really active day, I did a lot of things, and I get amped, and I have a hard time relaxing to go to sleep. And so I'll take some Slumber, mix it up, and it's a sleep aid. It's got some melatonin, and it's got some other things in it that relax the muscles. My doctor really likes it. He loves the product and has been a real big, he thinks it's important that I take a little melatonin all the time. So I'll take it, I'll fall asleep, and then I don't need to take it for 2 or 3 days because I'm kind of back on schedule. But what happens is sometimes I get so amped, I can't sleep, and then I don't get a good night's sleep. And the next day I'm still amped because I have elevated levels of cortisol, which is stress hormone, which then kind of keeps me from being able to sleep again. And it can be this wicked cycle. So like I said, every now and then, like once or twice a week, I can just tell I'm a little amped. I'm getting ready for bed. I just take a little Slumber and I'm down. Like the muscles relax. I feel in the morning, I just think you have to give yourself a good 8 hours so that, you take Slumber and you only sleep 5 hours, you're going to be groggy the next day. But you take Slumber and you get a full night's rest, you wake up, you feel good. So I like that supplement. And, when I take Ignite and Yeti, those are two things that I take at Mountain Ops, and I'll take these Blaze shots too. There are times when I want a little energy boost, when I really want to, just be on point, my mind, I want it to be sharp, I want to be active, then I'll take some of the supplements that are energy and focus type supplements that are like a stimulant, and it keeps me away from, things like energy drinks and such that have a lot of downside and a lot of negative things and crashes. These sort of pick me up supplements don't leave me with a crash the same way. So I'll take those. So that kind of gets you on the supplement side of things. I can't emphasize calcium, magnesium, fish oil enough, glucosamine. Those are big. Sleep, I think, a lot of guys just don't get sleep. And I think that's an important part of this whole recovery process is you can't go and smash your body, do all these things to it, and then not sleep. Some people can. Some people claim they can. I'm not that guy. And you got to know no amount of mental toughness is gonna overcome my need for sleep. It's like no amount of mental toughness is going to overcome my need for food. Like at some point I got to eat, and at some point I have to sleep. Those are the laws of nature. So it doesn't mean that I can't, neglect sleep some or shorten my hours. But the more sleep I get, especially when I'm trying to get back into an intense exercise and fitness routine, the more sleep I get during the first month or so, coming back, hitting it strong. Once I'm in shape, and I'm not having the soreness and I'm not having as many hours of fatigue and recovery because I'm fitter, I don't need sleep. But you got to strengthen your body. You got to push your body to that point where sleep is, where when you run 7 miles and you do a workout, that's just an everyday thing for you because your body's running on all cylinders and super fit. When you're like that, you can get away with crushing yourself and not getting sleep because you're fit. That's what fitness is. But when you're really broken and you're not in shape and you go and you do that, you're not going to be able to recover. It's funny because I'll see Jocko Willink or Cameron Haynes even. Cam's a good example. He'll go out and he'll run his nuts off, and it'll seem like he'll go to the gym that night, right? He's done a marathon and he's hit the gym hard, and then he barely sleeps like 4 or 5 hours. He gets up and he goes and he does it again. And people look at that and they go, dude, I'm just going to do that. If I were mentally tougher, I could just do that. And I agree. Like there's an intense level of mental toughness that goes with that. Same with carrying a heavy pack deep in the wilderness. Same with enduring the elements outside. Same with eating backpacking food for 2-3 weeks. Like there's mental toughness that comes in. It comes into play in a lot of places, and it's something you got to earn. You don't just get to have. But the one thing that I think people fail to realize is Cam didn't get there overnight. When I go and I bench or I squat 400 pounds, or I do some heavy deadlift or a clean and jerk, I didn't, people will see me do a big heavy clean and they're like, whoa, dude, you're going to blow your back out. You're going to blow your knees up. You're going to hurt yourself. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Because I didn't just come in one day and start lifting stupid, heavy things beyond my abilities. I have been lifting that load for 9 years, like little by little by little for years. My bone density, my ligament strength, my muscle recovery, like my muscles in general, all that stuff I built over years of incremental change, not drastic change, not overnight change. I did it incrementally. So I can come down here and do some stupid, crazy workout where I lift a heavy load. I don't know. I do like 35 snatches at body weight. It's like, you know what? It's crazy. It's a lot of work. But if you've incrementally built yourself up to be able to handle those kind of loads and that kind of workout, you're not on the edge of breaking. You're right where you've worked yourself to be able to do it. It's different. So when Cam goes out and he runs all these miles and he doesn't sleep, he earned that over for 30 years of running, 20 years of running all the time. He earned that. And so I think, sometimes we look at someone like that and we say, okay, I'm just not going to sleep. I'm going to go run all those miles. I'm going to go do these crazy workouts, and I'm just going to be tough. You're setting yourself up for failure in a lot of ways, because like I said, you got to earn that foundation. You got to crush yourself a little bit at a time and work your way up to where you're so fit you can do some of these things. And it all takes mental toughness whenever it hurts and whenever you're broken. And you don't have to be hyper fit to have to dig deep for mental toughness. In fact, some of the people I think have to dig the deepest isn't the guy that just had to run a 20-mile race, because that guy's pretty fit. It's the guy that hasn't worked out in 20 years and just has to go down to the gym and do a CrossFit WOD for 8 minutes. Which guy's got to dig deeper? I think sometimes it's the guy that's just broken and out of shape. And that's why I say you got to start so small and just work your way little by little. Anyway, so we talked about diet. We talked about supplements. We talked about, baby steps, taking your time. Talked about a little bit about inflammation regarding with your diet, and sleep. So this other part of this pyramid, when you got diet, you got supplements, you got sleep, you got exercise. Another part of recovery is basically it's all the soft tissue work that you need to do to stay strong, to heal, to recover from soreness. And so this is huge for me. I don't know if it's the same for other people, but for me, I've got to use a lacrosse ball. I've got to use trigger point techniques to work out tight tissue. I've got to roll on a foam roller, all these things. And I've talked about it in an earlier podcast where we talked about The Supple Leopard and the book, The Supple Leopard by Kelly Starrett. And he's an expert on, fixing broken and jacked up muscle tissue and helping you get range of motion through joints that have been restricted for a long time, increasing your shoulder mobility, your hip mobility, your ankle mobility, your back, all these things that get messed up. And the other day I was here at this Mule Deer Foundation banquet, and Cameron Haynes was here, and we were talking, and I asked Cam, I was like, so Cam, with all the miles you're putting on, you're like 50 something, you're killing it. What have you found? Like, how are you recovering? What are you finding is the biggest thing that's aiding in your recovery? And he told me, he goes, well, it's that Ther Gun. And so I went and got one. And here's for those that are watching on YouTube, this is the Ther Gun right here. And it's this sort of jackhammer looking thing. He said he uses the car buffer, which is the legit car buffer. And you'll see it if you follow his Instagram story. And he'll run it over the muscle, the shoulder, the hip, whatever it is, his calf muscle. And he'll run that, and he said it kind of numbs it and gets blood flow to it. Then he'll hit it with this Ther Gun right here, which is sort of this little jigsaw looking thing that punches your muscle. And so I went and got one. I ordered it, and it was not cheap. It was pretty expensive. And it's percussion therapy device is what it's called. And it does this whole jackhammer thing for those that are watching. And it hits the muscles like this. Well, I've been having this problem for the last couple of years. I can hike in the mountains forever. I can take a heavy backpack. I can go up steep grades. I can do all that. I can hit the gym. I can do box jumps. I can do a lot of things. But when I go run, for some reason, my calves lock up after about right in that 2 to 3 mile range. And I remember talking to a friend of mine years ago who had real bad calf problems as well. And he spent a lot of years hiking in the mountains with really stiff boots. And I'd say over the last few years, I've done 100 times the amount of mountain hiking with stiff boots than I ever had in the past. And I started to have a lot of calf issues, high calf, low calf, Achilles, just all kinds of stuff that was just sore all the time and tight. And when I started to do some deep squats and stuff, I was having range of motion issues. Like my ankle mobility wasn't like it's been in the past. And I think it just is attributable to the sheer amount of time I'm wearing a stiff boot in straight up and straight down country, doing the hunting that I love to do. And so I've been adjusting, trying to figure out how to fix that, how I can still run and do all the things I want to do, still climb the mountains. And when I started to break down and learn about my calves and how they work, is there's a lot of stuff going on there. Now, some people, their issues are their quads or their IT band or their hip flexors or their psoas. I mean, you name it, their rhomboids. Different folks, we all have stuff that's just wrecked from how we use our body. And usually it's tied to some kind of repetitive motion. Maybe you're on a computer and so you have carpal tunnel. Your forearms and stuff are jacked. Whatever it is, we all have it. And that's where the supple leopard techniques that I got from that book have really changed my life. But this Ther Gun that Cam told me about, I got it and I have been using it for 3 weeks. Basically got it the day after I talked to him. And I'm skeptical, because there's lots of things out there that I use that help a little bit here and help a little bit there. The psoas is a big thing right now that people write. It's a So-Right. It's a So-Right device. It goes right up here. You'll hear guys talk about it, MMA fighters on Joe Rogan's show and some others. And I use it, and there are people who have had life-changing relief from that, where they run it right in the front near their hip flexors, hit their psoas muscle, which you can look that up. It's PSO, psoas. That muscle is, it seems to afflict a lot of people. It actually, when I got it, it didn't really do anything. I don't think I have a problem with that. That's not where my thing is. So you got to find your thing. Mine has been calves and some hip flexor. So this Ther Gun, I started using it and I use it on my calves 3-4 times a day. It has been a freaking game changer. I can't believe, and I don't just use it on my calves. I use it on everything. I don't know if it's the same for everybody. I've only used it for me. Jordan has been using it here and there. When we hit the gym together, I'll bring it to the gym so he can use one because he's so cheap he hasn't bought one yet. But I can't emphasize how much this device has dramatically changed my recovery. I'm running. I'm running all the time, running daily. I'm running 2 to 3 miles, and I'm not having any issues with my calves. They'll get real sore. I'll hit it with this. It'll warm it up. I'll go do my run. I'll come back. Even if they're tight, I'll hit it again with this percussion device. I'll hit it in the afternoon. I'll hit it in the evening. With my clean diet, sleep, continued exercise, soft tissue work, I'll do the lacrosse ball too, right on the front of my calf, right along the shin. I'll hit this. I'll hit my shin with this Ther Gun as well. It's just changed everything for me. So it's pretty sweet. And I'll use it to warm up before I work out. And then I'll use it, 2 or 3 hours after my workout. And I'll use it before I go to bed. I can't believe how much soreness has gone away, how much more supple my tissue is, how much more mobility and flexibility I have. I'm just recovering and getting through. And I could tell for the last 3 weeks, I had some really, really jacked up tissue in my calves and my quads and so on that has been tight for a long time. And I haven't been able to get past it. So here's something that a lot of people don't realize. And I think it's important to understand. When you break down tissue and you break down muscle fibers and you tear things up, when those muscle fibers heal and they grow back, they don't grow back in these perfect, like straight up and down lines, like the direction your muscle fibers grow. They just kind of patch up, down, left, right, all over. And your cells just kind of repair it without the best range of motion. So here's what I found, that if I have messed up calves like I've had for the past year or two, a lot of people will be like, well, I just can't run anymore because it just causes this problem, but I can do everything else. My thoughts are, why can't I run? I can do everything else, but I can't run. I want to figure that out. And then I go and I do some things and then I run and it happens again. I do some things and I run and I'm like, gosh, every time I think I'm kind of over it, I'm not. Well, what I found is it's amazing when you get a professional like a chiropractor that really knows what they're doing, that does also soft tissue work, or you get someone that's just really good at sports medicine, sports massage, and they can break down some of that tissue, help you exercise through it, adjust a bone, or, you have something that's stuck, that's broken, and you go to a professional and you get it loose and you get it broken up, you get those muscles moving again through full range of motion, and then they're sore, they swell up. And it's really important that you continue to exercise and then get that tissue worked on again and then exercise and then get that tissue worked on again and then exercise. It's like this rehabilitation process where you got to hit those calves and then exercise. I got to hit those calves, exercise, hit those calves, exercise. And I might need to hire a professional if it's a back problem or a hip problem or a calf problem, or you figure out how to do it at home. A home remedy where you put in the time and the work to fix it and then exercise, fix it and then exercise. Don't give up your health. Fight for it. Work for it. So for me, this Ther Gun has been huge because I have the discipline. I'll warm it up. I'll warm up in the morning with it. I'll get that tissue really going. I'll go and I'll exercise. I'll push my calves. I'll do my thing. I'll do whatever that is. I'll go for the run. I'll come back. I'll hit it again. And over the course of 2, 3, 4 months of that kind of consistency of breaking down the tissue, but doing all the recovery work with diet, exercise, sleep, and Ther Gun soft tissue type work, lacrosse ball, foam roller, it's like, man, I have been able to, throughout my life, stay healthy and be strong. For those of you who've read the book, Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, that guy's a freak. He's amazing. So mentally tough that he's wrecked himself lots of times and then he comes back from it. But in the book, he has this section where he talks about all the endurance races that he did and all the exercise that he did. Basically, he did all that, but didn't do any of the soft tissue, any of the stretching, anything around recovery and taking care of all this muscles that he had just hammered. And he got to a point where he was in the hospital, and you should read the book. And he goes into this detail where he's like, he's wrecked. He's freaking wrecked. Like even his heart and other things are all jacked up because of how messed up his muscles were. In terms of like, they're so tight, so hard as a rock. And because he just abused them that, he has a section where he talks about all he did was stretch for like a full day, and then stretch some more after. And then he had to spend hours and hours and days just stretching and doing this soft tissue work to try to get his body back because it was so wrecked after years of hammering and never doing this stuff. And then now I think he says he stretches like an hour every day. And I know Cam hates to stretch. I hate it too. There's nothing I like about it. But stretching, doing the foam roller and the lacrosse ball, all that stuff's painful. But I'm willing to pay the price for that for the fitness I get in return. I think it's, at the end of the day, like Jocko says, discipline equals freedom. And the truth is, when you have a disciplined diet, when you have disciplined sleep, when you have disciplined soft tissue work, you take those 10, 20 minutes in the morning, afternoon, evening to do that work, stretch, roll. When you have that and you're taking the right supplementation, and you put it all together, you get to have a strong and healthy body, which then lets you go and do lots of things, that gives you freedom to do lots of things. And that's where I think discipline equals freedom. You have the discipline to do those things, you'll have the freedom to go and do all these other things you really enjoy, and you'll enjoy them. It's one thing if you can do them and get it done, but you feel like crap the whole time you're doing it and for weeks after you're done. I don't feel that way. Like when I'm out there, like working my butt off, climbing these mountains, and I'm not wrecked. And I feel good during the moment. I'm having fun. It's an adventure. And then when I pack it out, I feel good. And when I hit the sack, I wake up the next day, I'm ready to go again because I've spent the time having the discipline to eat right. And it's not something I just do for a period. It's how I live every day. It's just life, how I eat, clean, how I sleep, how I exercise. It's all part of that package. So the only thing I have left to cover in this whole kind of fitness discussion is the actual exercises, the actual workouts that I do and why I think they're important. Okay. Boils down to this. I think, especially the older you get, that it's very important to have dense bones. You have good bone density, good connective tissue, ligaments and tendons and so on. You have strength. You have good muscle because the older you get, the quicker and easier it is to lose muscle mass. And then I think you need some solid conditioning, both in muscle endurance and in cardiovascular endurance. And so this is what I like to do. I think that it's very important that you lift heavy things. That's it. Lift heavy things. Lift dumbbells, kettlebells, lift a barbell, lift a heavy backpack. Lift heavy things. The body responds well when you lift heavy things. I like a barbell because movements like the squat, the deadlift, the clean and jerk, the snatch, they challenge your range of motion. They challenge how far your body can move in certain directions, and they build muscle throughout a full range of motion. So I like those lifts and those things because, and I think going to a gym where someone can teach you those things is invaluable because those movements build strength, they build tissue, they build core strength. You put a bar over your head that's really heavy and you got to hold that. Think of all that stabilizing and all that strength you gain. It's no different than having a 150-pound pack on and your core's got to hold that up. Try to put, a 150-pound bar over your head and walk with it or do lunges. You can imagine how much that is going to affect your core strength. So you work your way up to being able to do those things so that you have a good foundation of mobility and strength. And you have denser bones, you have greater bone muscle mass, greater tendon and ligament strength. And it just prevents, as you get older, it prevents injuries. You're walking under, like when I go backpacking and hunting, I'm carrying a heavy load on awkward cliffs and rocks and climbing logs and things like that. And all that stuff, it's easy to get hurt if you don't have good strength through range of motion. So that's my pitch for strength training and the importance of it and why it matters. The other thing is muscle endurance. So a lot of people think about cardiovascular endurance where, you can keep your heart rate up for a long period of time and go and go and go and go, or you can just push that heart rate to a high level and you're not just about to pass out, But muscle endurance is I liken it to this. It's like cardiovascular endurance helps you carry your backpack up a mountain and you're breathing really heavy. I breathe heavy, annoyingly heavy. I'm a pretty heavy breather even when I'm super fit. I think I have a smaller lung capacity, but I have incredible heart health. In fact, I've been tested. My heart's crazy slow and efficient. And it always blows the doctor away. I don't think I have a great lung capacity. And I think those two are inversely related. So I got to take in quite a few breaths to accomplish things, but I hit that fitness that level, and it's where I'm at. So it's after years and years and years of pushing my cardiovascular capacity. Your heart will enlarge up to a certain point, and your lungs can get a little bit bigger, but you're kind of consigned to your makeup. And then other things can play a role. But it's sort of like, it's no different than there's some dudes that are never going to be able to lift the loads that I can lift and move as much weight as I can in that window of time. And I'm never going to be able to outrun them running up a mountain. We're all a little bit different, but you can push your body to the top of its capacity and really push your performance levels up to certain to the best of the best within your abilities. But I think cardio muscle endurance is when you got that heavy pack and you're coming down a mountain. I don't breathe at all. Like, there's no oxygen needed hardly for me coming down a mountain. You're using a lot of quad and ankle, and it's really just muscle endurance. Like, how many times can you repeat that motion coming downhill in a stable fashion with a heavy load? A lot of guys, even lampers, friends of mine, they'll have a little bit of knee pain, or they'll be like that, or they don't like the downhill, or they sweat a lot on the downhill. I'm not built that way. I don't feel it at all. Conversely, though, when I climb a hill, I feel every bit of that. I have short legs. It kills me trying to climb over logs and obstacles on a trail that's relatively flat. I can't keep up with guys like Ryan with the long legs. But muscle endurance, I think, is a big deal for backpacking and hiking and carrying heavy loads. It's being able to move a moderately heavy load over long distances for long periods of time. That, to me, is muscle endurance. So that'd be a 70-pound pack that you're hiking 10 miles for every day for a week. You're hiking 5 miles every day for 14 days. That's a fitness that can only be gained through a few methods. And then the other part of exercise that matters, I think, is cardiovascular ability. So we talked about the strength thing, increasing bone density and all that, lifting weights, getting under the squat bar, doing barbell stuff or kettlebells or dumbbells and so on. The other part, I think, for muscle endurance, I think is pretty hard to beat just hiking with a heavy backpack. I also think it's pretty hard to beat like weighted lunges that go on forever. Any kind of single leg work, I think, is a really big deal. Well, and I think that climbing mountains with heavy packs, all of that stuff plays a role in muscle endurance, but also cardio endurance. So the other thing that I like to do is I like to run. I like to run 2 to 3 miles every day just as a baseline, and sometimes 5 miles a day if I can. I haven't been able to do that for like a year, but I can hike mountains that far and keep my heart rate going, have it pegged really high from just the hiking, the backpacking. And so it doesn't really matter. You can get on an exercise bike, you can get on a row machine, but I do think that it's hard to beat actual hiking. So my routine looks like this. Something like Monday, Wednesday, Friday are kind of classic CrossFit days where I do some kind of CrossFit WOD, maybe it's a randomly selected workout of the day. I'll find one off of Instagram. I don't really care. There's a few people I like to follow, and I'll just pick stuff. Or I'll follow a program by a local gym, and I'll do that. But Monday, Wednesday, Friday is kind of just a random workout that consists of functional movements over various time frame, and they're kind of CrossFit or high intensity interval style workouts. On Tuesdays and on Saturday, I like to hike on those other days, on my alternative days. I like to put in a lot of miles hiking. And then typically what I do is like on Thursdays, I take a break. If I do a CrossFit WOD on Monday, and then I do a backpack on Tuesday, and then I do a CrossFit again on Wednesday, I might take Thursday off, and then I'll go back on Friday for CrossFit, and then I'll hike again on Saturday. That sort of cadence works for me. I think you just got to figure out what works for you. And for me, I don't know, I try to stick with the exercises that I know will help me in the mountains. So I still like to do things like muscle ups and pull ups and so on, even though, Usually when I'm in the mountains, I'm not doing a lot of that. But my emphasis is leg work. It's lunges, it's squats, it's pistols, single leg squats, things like that. And I try to stick with a lot of that. And then it's core, back, kettlebell swings and deadlifts and cleans and clean and jerks and overhead presses. Any weight overhead I think is really beneficial. So that's kind of my overview on fitness. I could break off on any of these subjects and go into really great detail, but for me, this is kind of how I do it. Here's a little tips and tricks that are working for me. I hope that that's useful to you. The Ther Gun has been amazing. Can't say enough about that. So check that out. If you got more questions, send them in. This won't be the last. We'll talk about fitness some more. Thanks for tuning in. Stay gritty, friends.